from the London Center in Phoenix, it's the Pat McMahon Show.
That is the sincere welcome of a little Irish guy saying Happy Tuesday. Welcome to AZTV. You are welcome here, and you will find yourself deeply indebted at 10 o'clock. I promise you, I know what I'm talking about. By 10 o'clock, you're going to say, man, am I glad I watched that whole show, canceled all those other appointments, because I know so much more than I did before. Perhaps we might be, in fact, stimulating your creativity without your permission. Joe Arpaio can't even stop me from doing that because you're going to get stimulated. We have a couple of guests who are going to be talking about those days when you say, I don't have a creative thought left in my body. Some of you may be saying, I have never had a creative thought in my body. Get ready. That's all going to change. Because our guests, Andrew and Janine, are going to stimulate you. And, you know, I don't do empty promises. Also, we're going to be talking about a couple of very serious subjects. One is the fact that if you are a criminal in today's society, not just here in the United States, but in many different cultures, if you are a criminal, you're better off than some of your victims. It's just simply the way it goes in society. But it doesn't mean that it always has to be that way. So we're going to talk about victims' rights, and we're going to do that with somebody who is very, very actively involved here in state matters, trying to change that around, and somebody who, as a result of being a victim, says, please change that around. Marilyn Monroe. Wouldn't it be wonderful if she was the guest? Wouldn't it be wonderful if she was able to just simply live a full life? That remarkable sex goddess of Hollywood, taken from all of us, whether you were a fan or not, far too early. But why? Why did it happen? What was that Norma Jean Baker all about? The person who married an extraordinary and brilliant playwright, one of the greatest baseball players that ever lived, and was involved with a number of people, rumored and factually. Marilyn Monroe, now chronicled in her death, called Murder by Consent. And on this day, when the news stories are filled with information about a sex tape involving Marilyn Monroe, early, in fact, even pre-career, that was purchased by a collector for $1.5 million. But he, and I pray that he continues to follow this dictum of his, this vow, he says he's going to put it in a bank vault, never to be released. Which, of course, is more than the Paris Hilton people did. It's a fascinating story. It's a crime story. It is a suicide story. It is a story involving a lot of people that has been written by Dr. Jack Haddam. He's our guest today, among many. Okay, very quickly, tonight, Crystal Darkness, 6:30, as AZTV joins virtually every television station in Arizona. That's why we're doing it all together. Normally competing on the streets for the same advertising dollar. We're all running this simultaneously because of the seriousness and the depth of the subject. The meth assault on your kids and your brothers and your sisters and your husbands and your wives. Tonight at 6:30, all of us running it together on KTAR, and the folks here at AZTV are very gracious about this. If you would like to then watch here and then listen on the radio as we open up the phones on KTAR, because we're also running the audio of the show there, we're going to be doing a call-in program. And I'll tell you what happens. Dramatically, former meth addicts call in, and you'll never forget their voices. You'll never forget their stories, I promise you. Tonight, 6:30 AZTV. The George Lopez Show, regularly here, every night, 7 o'clock. You'll see George Lopez, who bills himself as America's Mexican, Thursday, April 24th at the Dodge Theater. The 25th at the Dodge Theater, the 26th at the Dodge Theater. That's how popular this guy is. And last night on the George Lopez Show here on AZTV, Sean Jeffords of Mesa won 2 tickets to Thursday night's concert by George Lopez. You can still get in on this, by the way, by contacting AZTV at arizonasown.com. And then there's a computer drawing. Let me see. Diamondbacks lost. Randy Johnson didn't look bad last night. The Suns won after nearly blowing one of those insurmountable leads. That brings you up to date on sports. Today, April the 15th, 1955, burger history was made as Ray Kroc opened the first McDonald's hamburger restaurant. That's it. And man, billions and billions of dollars later, we look back on that day in retail history. In Des Plaines, Illinois, by the way. Listen, let's talk about you walking out of a club just a year and a half ago, and your life has changed forever because you get shot in the face. What happens afterwards? Well, you are forever a victim. And we'll talk to that person and somebody who wants to make changes in victims' rights in Arizona, coming up next.
At BuyOwner, we don't just save you money. Our service record speaks for itself. Let us help you find buyers and handle the details.
I sold in a few months and saved over $19,000.
You show your home and save money. The time to call is now.
Thanks, BuyOwner.
Some things are so unpleasant, you tend to put them off. Like trying to buy a car when you have bad credit.
So, let's take a look at that credit report.
Thanks to DriveTimesGoForApproval.com, you can apply for credit online, and DriveTime will get you an answer in about 2 minutes, completely pain-free. Get approved online, get a great car at DriveTime. GoForApproval.com from DriveTime.
Approved, approved, approved.
Free, free, free. Tuesday, it's free. Wednesday, it's free. Thursday, it's free. At More Furniture for Less. Buy a living room, get a free matching chair. Buy a bedroom, get a free mattress and foundation. Buy a dining room, get 2 free chairs. Plus, take until 2013 to pay. Interest free. And get next day express delivery. Only at More Furniture for Less.
Life is so full of questions. Where do you turn for answers? Grace Upon Grace is an in-depth study of the Bible, discovering the answers to the questions surrounding life today. Join Bible teacher Mark Martin of Calvary Community Church and begin to see purpose, relevance, gain answers to those puzzling questions in life. Grace Upon Grace, because life is so full of questions, isn't it good to know where to find answers?
We sold this home and bought our new home using BuyOwner.
If you think you need an expert, that's exactly what you'll get with BuyOwner.
They not only saved us money, they helped us understand the process.
With selling this place and buying our new home, we saved $20,000. Thanks, BuyOwner.
Thanks, BuyOwner.
I don't know that I necessarily would choose to open the show and our first segment with our guest this way, but I can't think of another way than to ask you, have you ever thought about being shot by a stranger? It happens all too often anymore with the proliferation of firearms and crime, and that's what we're going to be talking about with Dan Levy, advisor to the governor of the state of Arizona for victims' rights, and Jim Ledgewood, who is now introduced as a crime victim. But who were you before a year and a half ago on that January night? How would they have introduced you?
Recent college graduate.
In what field?
Architecture. Inspiring architect here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I just moved 6 months before I was injured. I was looking to make a new career and a new life for myself out here in Arizona, moving from California.
You certainly have a new life now that you didn't plan on, right?
Yeah.
Are you still an architect, by the way? Are you still involved in the field?
I am. Unfortunately, because of our economy, I am unemployed now. And it's been a struggle trying to find a new position.
What do you remember about the night of January the 27th, 2006?
I can remember everything up to the point where I was shot. And
which was where?
In Glendale, Arizona, at a famous Sam's Bar and Grill.
And you walked out of the club.
Yeah, as far as I can remember, is the night was getting over. I wanted to get some fresh air because they smoked in the restaurants then. And I remember going to the front door, and next thing you know, I woke up and I was in the hospital.
You don't remember a flash, a sound, anything?
Nothing. I don't even remember walking outside.
When you were in the hospital, did you think you were going to survive?
I wasn't too sure, to be honest. The doctors weren't too sure for the first 48 hours of what was going to happen.
And your life since has been tough, not only because of the injury, but as you said, just because of circumstances and conditions in the economy. The continuing problems of victims. You are professionally and personally involved in this. Talk to us.
Yes. Well, I got involved, as you know, back in '96 after my brother Howard was murdered by a complete stranger sitting in his car waiting for his friends to show up for their basketball game. And so I've dedicated my life's work to him and his memory, and to try and help others that unfortunately come along, like Jim, because I distinctly remember what it was like to be thrust into that criminal justice system.
What do you remember? What do you remember about finding out that your brother was shot as insanely as our other guest?
I remember just asking the question why, looking for answers to questions that really had no answers. There were no answers to our questions of why. I guess robbery was the reason, but just trying to make sense of something that will never make sense, and that's what I struggled with for a long time.
But instead of just trying to continue your life as it was, you've now actively involved yourself in an area that all of the victims of crime need. Talk about what you do as an advisor to the governor for victims' rights.
Sure. Well, one of the things I like to say, Pat, was these were the unfortunate cards I was dealt in life, me and my family, and I'm going to play them to make a difference. And I was proud to work for Governor Napolitano as the first governor's advisor in the country. And primarily what I do is respond to constituents, people like Jim, who call in and just are looking for somebody from government, if you will, to guide them through the justice system or give them some direction, some advocacy, and I work closely with most prosecuting agencies in the state.
Jim, what do you want from the government? What do you want from the state of Arizona, the governor?
Justice.
Well, you didn't get justice from the standpoint of anybody actually being brought to trial for the crime that was perpetrated. They never caught this person, right?
No, they have not.
Well, what do you want, though?
To feel like the story has been completed. For them to help me in any way they can. I was told that I live in a country where government will help you, and I was kind of hoped that they would do that, and any way they can to help me get through this horrific event that I've gone through would be appreciated greatly.
Medical care assistance that you don't have now, or some kind of pension?
No pension. I've just gone through the government to get the COBRA insurance, get my insurance back on since I've been laid off of work, and that can be very expensive to keep the same kind of medical plan that I had when I was hurt.
So you don't have any medical insurance now at all?
I just got it back in the action again.
With the help of the government?
Yeah, you could say so, with the host government.
Senator Kyle has been on this program and a number of other shows that I've done, and this seems to be a cause of his. You have leadership on your side. Why do the wheels seem to grind so slowly?
Well, you know, I think most politicians are going to say they're for victims' rights, and probably most are, but when the rubber meets the road, even here in our own legislature, as we've experienced this session, when we try and make changes that came from the first-hand real-life experiences of people like Jim and myself, we're not always greeted with the warmth or the acceptance that we would hope.
Well, sure, every leader is going to say, I am for victims' rights, because the antithesis of that is for somebody to come out publicly and say, no, I'm against the victims. Right. But that's not going to happen. When we're talking about victims, of course, we're not just talking about Jim, and we're not just talking about Dan's brother. We're talking about you and me and all of us, seconds perhaps away from becoming victims. In what capacity? Well, we're going to be talking about what happens when someone has been abused and the perpetrator has been put away and gets out and does it again. Well, wait a minute. That's re-victimizing that person, isn't it? That's not justice. We'll talk about what can be done on the Pat McMahon Show on AZTV. You're not going anywhere, are you?
The Arizona Heart Institute is armed with the best weapons in the fight for your life.
Alert, alert.
Patients with drug-eluting stents, atrial fibrillation, artificial heart valves, or vascular disease who are taking aspirin, Plavix, or Coumadin must know not all patients respond equally to drug type and dosage, placing them at serious risk. But a simple blood test can evaluate how these medications are working or perhaps harming you. Don't wait. Ask for this special blood test today at the one name you need to know, the Arizona Heart Institute.
Hi, folks. I'm Sam Maranto, and for over 30 years, I've been helping thousands and thousands of people with depression, backaches, headaches, alcoholism, drug addiction, taught them how to earn more money, become millionaires.
My income is up about 208% year-to-date.
Got the CDs, listening to them every night, and weight just started falling off me.
Since listening to your tapes, I've noticed, one, a dramatic increase in my own self-confidence, my ability to follow through and achieve my goals.
I listened to sessions of yours for 2 days, and I got off the prescription pain medications that I could not get off in a year and a half.
I went to a couple of sessions, and my headaches went away.
Give me a call for a free session. $250 value. Free if you call right now, 602-957-4669. 957-4669. Call now. God wants you to get some help.
This morning at 10 o'clock, you're not who you think you are.
Are you who you think you are?
Who are you?
I don't know.
We'll find out.
Albert Golden here to talk about his book. You know, you're really not who you think you are. Angela Gigline, Books That Matter If You Let Them, and a Victorian Wedding, followed by the meth crisis. Yavapai County Attorney and Yavapai County Sheriff to bring us up to date locally on that epidemic in our society today.
Dan Levy, one of our guests, discovered that his brother, who was guilty of attempting to play a pickup basketball game, waiting for his teammates in a parking lot, and a couple of goons robbed him and shot him to death. Dan decided to do something about it, and he is an advisor to Governor Napolitano for victims' rights. Jim Ledgewood, an architect, out of work. Doesn't just happen to you, Jim. It just seems that also goes with the field, doesn't it? When things get bad, architects are among the first ones to be let go. However, he's here as a victim, was shot on a day back in 2006 in January in a parking lot because he was guilty of walking out of a club, and he just became a victim. Was shot in the face. Okay, what's going to change this, Dan? We were just talking about medical insurance, and you were talking about the fact that there's a compensation plan. This was off the air. Compensation plan for victims to the tune of about $20,000. And you and I both know, and Jim knows too well, That consists of walking through the front door of most hospitals. It's better than nothing. But what does a guy like Jim have to do to get medical bills taken care of?
Well, the Crime Victims Compensation Program, which you talk of, is a program that does help crime victims up to $20,000. And in Jim's case, clearly he's going to exceed that limit. And one of the things we can do and are going to look at is to change a rule or even a statute if we need to, that if it's obvious that the injuries are beyond the $20,000 and doctors are verifying this, as are insurance companies, that they just go ahead and pay that and not put Jim through the rigors of submitting hundreds of receipts and going through different hearings to get those approved or not approved.
Are you bitter? I don't mean about the crime, because I can't imagine that you wouldn't carry some bitterness against some stranger that shot you in the face. But are you bitter about the way that Arizona has treated you and not treated you?
I don't know if bitter is a word, more confused. And grow up thinking that the government's the one that's there to help you. A little frustrated, really. I mean, it's not their fault, but I was also told that I would be helped in a situation like this. I never asked to go through this. I really don't want to have to deal with it, but I do, and I would think that, you know, I am a citizen and I should be helped.
Okay, you're back on an insurance plan, though, now. What else do you need?
As far as medical?
What else do you need from the state of Arizona? I don't think a lot of people really even understand what rights victims are looking for.
I don't know if I could really answer that. I would like to see the justice system work a little more rigorous to cases like myself where there is no leads.
To catch the guy.
Catch the person.
Would that at least take some of the pain away?
I think it would. I think it would just give me a sense of closure on the whole incident. The confusion was really tough on me.
You know what really, really frosts me is not only a story like Jim's, but also those people who have been victimized and they do catch the guy and they know the husband, the boyfriend, they get put away. And then they're released, and the original victim isn't informed that the guy's back out on the street again. How is that possible?
Well, victims should be informed if the person is being released from incarceration. Our statutes mandate that the Department of Corrections, and we do it because I work with the Department of Corrections, provide notifications to those victims that opt in. But the rights aren't automatic. You have to, as a crime victim, after you've gone through a year or 2 years or whatever it takes to get the person sentenced, then you have to say, I want to have rights the rest of the way.
You have to request your rights.
Right. Just that notion right there, you know, there should be God-given rights that you don't have to opt in or out.
What can these good folks who are watching the show, because they are good folks and they're activists, what do you want them to do?
To not be silent, if you hear of legislation or if you have a friend or family or yourself are a crime victim, to speak up, to use your experience as a survivor or victim, because really we're the experts in that we've been through it and are still going through it, and we're all in this thing called life together, and we can make it better for crime victims, but it takes encouragement of citizens.
Is it more of a problem in Arizona, or is this a nationwide thing?
It's nationwide, and you mentioned Senator Kyle before, and he's worked long and hard for a constitutional amendment to our U.S. Constitution, and many of us feel until we get that, victims' rights are always going to sort of play second fiddle to the defendants' rights, which are embedded, rightly so, in our Constitution. But victims' rights, and Arizona is one of the leaders. We have strong victims' rights, and most of those rights allow the victim to be informed, included, and involved. But such as in Jim's case, when nobody's captured and there's nothing to be involved or informed about, because the case right now, there's no suspects.
I thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your courage and your persistence. And you're not going to quit, are you?
Never.
This is Pat McMahon on AZTV. Hey, you remember when I told you that we were going to stimulate you? No, don't lock the family up. It's not me. We've got a couple of authors here who are professionals at stimulation from here, in, and up. Stick around.